Welcome to Mysteries and Mimosas, and thank you for listening to Mysteries and Mimosas. My name is Max, and with us today is Aria, who only has 2 Discord friends, myself and listener Bill.
I know. So is that... Did I beat you?
No, you lose. No. You only had one friend for a little while, and it was me, because I sent you a friend request.
Yeah.
So
I can't count that one, is what you're saying? Oh,
no.
So we're tied.
So Mimosa Aria is your screen name, and I was really hoping that you would beat me, but you can't.
Me too.
Nobody does Discord. Maybe nobody knows how.
Yeah, why do we do that?
Well, Discord is an opportunity to give it's like a server, almost like a chat room from the 90s, where people can get on and they can interact with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about the episode. It'll take off. Just wait.
Maybe. Anyway, hi everyone.
Hi, Aria. You know, speaking of listener Bill, he is and has been our most active listener.
That's true.
Yeah, he comments all the time.
He does.
And
he listens to every single episode.
I'm super thrilled to have him as a listener. He makes my heart happy with all of his enthusiastic comments, likes, his shares, and I think we need to do something special for listener Bill. So, if you're listening to this, which I know you are, we're going to send you some swag. Reach out to us on mysteriesandmimosas.net and give us your address, and we will send you something fun. And as usual, please take time to check us out on Instagram at Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast. We're also on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. I'm doing my best there. Any attention you give us helps us immensely. And as usual, I have before me a list of trivia questions from the year 1985. You ready for this one?
I think maybe I can do 1985.
And just a reminder, if you haven't listened before, or if you have listened before, it's a reminder. If you haven't listened before, here's the instructions. The idea behind trivia, or at least the trivia segment here, is to mentally bring you back to the year of the crime if you happen to be that old. In this case, Aria was born in 1986, so she wouldn't remember 85.
No.
But I do it by running Aria through some trivia questions just to relive the year.
I'm ready. Ready when you are.
In the year 1985, this famous company announced they would change their century-old secret formula. The new recipe would have a smoother and sweeter taste, similar to its diet counterpart.
Coca-Cola.
You win. I need like a bell sound or something to like ding ding when you win. Yeah, but I don't have that. I'm gonna get that.
Get it. Because I'm going to win a lot.
Well, I didn't think it was worth it until now. And I'm
it's
just
worth
blown
it now.
away.
Exactly. Yeah. Just get it.
Okay, question number 2. Are you ready for this one?
I am.
Remember, 85. Along with Papa John's Pizza, you know the pizza place? Really good. Mm-hmm. Quicken Loans and Sam Adams, the beer. What famous store was founded in 1985, leaving only one store left in existence today?
Blockbuster.
Wow, right? I need the bell. Yeah, congratulations. You're 2 out of 2.
Man, this is a good day for Aria.
This is a wonderful day. I'm actually very proud of you.
Thank
All right,
you.
1985 on NBC.
Oh, geez.
What was the most popular TV show?
On NBC in 1985.
It was still really popular when you were a child.
NBC. Geez, I honestly don't know.
Do you want me to give you a hint?
Yeah.
The star of this show is also famous for his Jell-O jigglers.
Oh, The Cosby Show.
It was The Cosby Show. Yeah, congratulations. That's
thank
3 for 3.
you.
I don't know if I want to give you that one. You didn't know, but that's okay.
No.
You needed the
no.
hint because you were born in 86, so I'll let you pass. 3 for 3.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right. We haven't done this question in a while. I have full confidence in you because even though you are a child of the 90s, you are an old soul and a child of the 80s at heart, especially when it comes to music. So, in 1985, what was the year-end top song on the Billboard 100?
Oh, geez. In 1985.
If you don't get it on the first try, I'll give you one hint.
I really don't know. I need that hint.
You need that hint?
Yes.
You don't have any idea what might have been popular when you were born even?
I don't, I'm trying to think of what the top song was when
All
I
right.
was even born.
Let me give you a hint.
Okay.
It has an exclamation point in their name.
Uh-huh.
Aha does not have an
Oh, it doesn't?
exclamation point in their name. No, but
Maybe it's
I mean,
just-
you're close.
In my mind, it seems like it would have an exclamation point.
Okay, I'll give you the artist. It's Wham.
Okay.
What would be the song?
Uh-oh. No.
The mimosa's hurting you right now, huh? It's hindering your ability to...
Oh, no. Wham.
No, that's the artist.
I know. I'm going to be so mad at myself because I know it. What's it start with?
We're not doing that.
Fine. I don't know.
It's Careless Whisper by Wham.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Year-end top song, 1985. Careless Whisper. All right. Next order of business. Thank you for participating, by the way. I am very proud of you. You got 3 out of 4. That's 75%. That's up from your typical 0%.
I thought I was going to get 100, though, this time. I really was confident in that.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
I don't know, though.
To try to get, I mean, that'd be like asking me what was the top year-end Billboard song in like 1972, or like 75.
Or 78.
Or 78. I'm not trying to put my age out there.
That's exactly what it would be.
Okay, and I couldn't tell you. So anyway, congratulations. I'm going to say you won trivia.
What did I win?
You win the responsibility of sending listener Bill his swag.
Okay.
All right, next order of business. Anytime we have mimosas and talk mysteries, we enjoy our mimosas out of Dragon Glassware glasses. If you haven't seen these glasses, you need to take a look. You can find them on our Instagram page. And if you want your own, which I highly suggest you get your own or get them for a gift because they make awesome gifts.
We've done that before.
Yeah.
A couple times.
We have. Mm-hmm. Maybe we'll send one to Listener Bill.
Oh, maybe. They're always a hit. Everyone loves them.
You know what? That's what we're doing. Listener Bill, you're getting some Dragonware glasswares. Today's mimosa recipe is surprisingly tasty and, if done right, very light and very refreshing. It's really quite simple. And this was brought to us by one of our listeners, one of my favorite listeners, my daughter. It's quite simple. First, you need to make your own watermelon juice by scooping chunks of watermelon into a blender. That's right. Cut the watermelon in half, take the chunks, put them in a blender.
I like it so far. I love watermelon, so.
Yeah, it's good. Once the watermelon is blended, use your finest strainer of all time, the finest one you could find,
Okay.
and remove all the pulp by filtering it through your strainer and fill your champagne flute. She says a half of the way, but she's never drank alcohol, so she really doesn't know. You actually only need a splash of watermelon, or if you want to do it right, a quarter of the cup is good. And then you add your favorite champagne. It's the perfect mimosa to kick off summer.
It is. It's a great summertime mimosa.
Okay, and another special treat here. I am not going to present today's case. You don't have to hear me talk too much. It's going to be all you. So whenever you're ready.
All right, let's get into it.
Are you going to do it?
Yes, I just said.
Oh, did I interrupt you?
You did.
Oh, sorry.
All right, let's get into it.
Go ahead.
Stop it.
Okay. Okay, for real this time. Go.
All right,
I won't. That's the last time.
Oh my gosh, stop it.
Okay. Go.
All right, let's get into today's episode. So today's case is from Norwalk, Connecticut. Located in western Connecticut, Norwalk lies between the New York metropolitan area and the Bridgeport metropolitan area. Originally settled in 1649, Norwalk is the 6th most populated city in Connecticut. On July 11th and July 12th of 1779, British Major General William Tyrone burned Norwalk to the ground. He is responsible for burning over 130 homes, 40 shops, 100 barns, 5 ships, 2 churches, and 4 mills.
He sounds like a jerk.
I'll say. That's a lot. I mean, in 1779, there were 130 homes there. That's a lot.
I'm impressed, but you know what? I would be coming after him. I mean, this man clearly has no boundaries. I would be coming after him hard if I was an investigator back then, and he would be looking at well over 300 acts of first-degree arson.
As he should be.
As he should be.
He even
Shame on
burned 5
him.
ships. Who goes around burning ships? That's like, what is this guy's deal?
Yeah. Well, we don't.
Seriously.
Yeah, we don't intend to give a history lesson, but I think that's pretty important history for Norwalk. And yeah, that's all I have to say is shame on him.
Yeah. I mean, he was angry about something.
Oh, yeah, he has some bad karma coming.
In 1985, April Grisanti was in the process of breaking up with her then boyfriend, James Aaron. Up until this point, April and James had been dating for about 3 years when April decided to end their relationship. On the evening of January 31st and into the early hours of February 1st, It was reported that April and James were involved in a physical altercation. Apparently, during this incident, police were called and responded, but Grisanti didn't want to press charges against James.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting, back in 1985, times were much different. And you even see some of the older cops episodes where they would have like these domestic violence situations, and you'd see, one of the partners beat up really badly, and they would say, "Do you want to file charges?" And they would decline and let the boyfriend stay there, or the husband stay there, or the wife, or whatever. But that's not the way it works these days, at least in most states that I'm aware of. They take much better precaution to protect victims. And if you don't know, whenever you are involved in a domestic violence situation, most of the states have laws implemented where officers are mandated to make an arrest.
Yeah.
That if there is probable cause to believe that a domestic violence, whatever those elements in whichever state it is, exist, they actually don't have the opportunity to say, "Hey, do you want to file charges?" and allow that person to stay there. They're mandated by law to take them to court or arrest them and take them to court immediately to see a judge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the reasoning behind that is because during those days, back in the 80s and early 90s, victims of domestic violence, I mean, they're being asked right in front of the perpetrator, "Are you going to press charges?" And they're scared, right? They're going to say no because they don't want him to get any madder or her. It can go both ways, of course. But they don't want to make that person more upset. So they say no, and they just go on, and it gets worse and worse until eventually they were seeing a lot of murders because of that, because nothing was being done.
Right. And we all know that the domestic violence crime is somewhat of it's a cycle of violence where you have the different cycles where you're in the honeymoon phase, and then there's like a tension building phase, and then it blows up, and then, there's an act of violence or a physical act or something,
Mm-hmm.
And
eventually those cycles, those like the honeymoon period where everything is good, gets shorter and shorter until it really doesn't exist anymore, and it's just a constant.
Right.
Yeah.
And so the law, I don't believe, is intended to take any power away from a victim. I think it is more in place to protect them, to make sure that they're not further harmed.
Exactly.
That's the intent.
That is the intent behind that. Just because those situations, especially cases of domestic violence, are such volatile situations.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's very little information available about the police department's initial response, but what happened next was the last time April was ever seen alive again. Apparently, a second altercation occurred around 15 minutes after midnight on February 1st. Witnesses observed James force April into his blue Cadillac. As April was trying to fight James off and escape, James sped off northbound on Main Street. April was never heard from or seen again.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, not broad daylight, but I mean, in the middle of the street,
in front of
people, he just forces her. That really gives us a pretty good idea of what kind of person James was.
Exactly.
If he's willing to do it in front of witnesses and force her in there, and she's fighting back, causing a scene, and he speeds off with her in the car. This is exactly why these laws are now in place to arrest people, because had they arrested him on the first altercation, assuming that they had probable cause to believe a crime was committed, they would have prevented this from happening at least that night.
Exactly.
Right? I mean, they can't control what happens when he bonds out of jail and sees the judge and, she takes him back if that happens. But at least for that night, she would have been safe.
Right. So apparently James returned home to his Stewart Avenue address approximately 2 hours later. According to James, April jumped out of his car approximately 3 blocks from where he forced her into the car. However, police doubt this story from James because they found a toll receipt in James's car indicating that he went to New York. I think it's important to mention April was never reported missing by James. April was later reported missing by her friends when she failed to show up for work.
Okay, yeah, so I immediately would doubt his story too. I mean, if she jumped out of the car 3 blocks, away from the crime scene, wouldn't he want to report that? I mean, if she then becomes missing, like, hey, you know what? she jumped out of my car and I haven't seen her for, however long. You would think he'd be the person to report that. He's the closest person to her at that time.
Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I mean, you go from, the police are called earlier in the evening for an altercation, and then they're called a second time for another altercation where he's actually witnessed by other people forcing her into his car, and now all of a sudden she's not showing up for work.
Right.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. So later in the investigation, police found April's discarded wallet about a half a mile away from James's home near an electric tower on Philo Street near Stepping Stone Road, further raising their suspicions about James. April's wallet contained her driver's license, credit cards, and her birth certificate. Police returned April's wallet to her sister Gina, at which point Gina found police reports related to previous incidents involving James.
Wow.
So yeah, she found paperwork from days before where the police were also involved.
Okay, so now we have a pattern of domestic violence or a pattern of incidents reported to police where they're having these major altercations. I have a couple issues with this wallet. First of all, they found it 3 blocks not 3 blocks, I'm sorry. They found it a half a mile away from James' home near an electrical tower. So it contained her driver's license and credit cards. Mm-hmm. Those are 2 very important items that people keep with them, especially credit cards.
Right.
And so if this were somebody else that would have robbed her, it doesn't add up because they would have taken her credit cards and probably her ID. Mm-hmm. People don't just toss a wallet with all the important valuables still in it unless they're hiding something.
Right.
Which means hiding the wallet, not necessarily robbing to take everything from her.
Exactly.
And so just the fact that the wallet is found near his house, a half a mile from his house, with all those important belongings still in it, would further bolster my investigation towards James. And then the other issue I have with it is that the police, shouldn't they, I mean, if it were my investigation, I would have booked that in as evidence. I don't know why they would give it back to Gina.
I don't know, and I don't know when they gave it back to her either. Because this article was from several years later. I mean, either way, I would think they would keep it.
Yeah.
But I don't know when it was returned to her for sure. I don't know if that was right away or several years later. I'm not sure.
I can tell you, in today's day and age, if we have a missing person and we suspect that the person who last saw them, who happens to also be the person who kidnapped that person, if we find that wallet half a mile from their house and we just don't have enough evidence yet to charge him, that wallet's going into evidence and it's probably never coming out.
Sure.
Ever.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't know why they did that. Also, later in the investigation, police recovered April's car from the Norwalk River.
Well, that's interesting. Mm-hmm. I wonder how far the car was found from James' house.
I don't know.
Or if that's even a factor, because I mean, if we're being fair and unbiased, that might actually lead to, I guess, bolster his story that he didn't have anything to do with it because the car has not been an issue thus far.
Right. I'm curious, like, where her car was to begin with in all of this. Did they go wherever they were at together in his car? Or did she? Right, exactly. I don't know. So because police were unable to locate April, James was arrested on February 10th of 1985. He was charged with kidnapping and unlawful restraint, to which he pled guilty. James was convicted and served 6 years in prison for kidnapping April. He was released on December 9th of 1991. The interesting thing about this case is this is not the first time James was suspected of murdering someone. In 1981, James was married to a woman by the name of Mary Fratellone. Mary was last seen on July 2nd of 1981. On August 1st of 1981, Mary's skeletal remains were found in the wooded area off of Route 123 and Route 15 in the commuter lot in Norwalk. Mary's cause of death was undetermined, but police suspect Mary was murdered.
That's interesting. So they find her body, so I'm guessing there was an autopsy done back then, and because it's skeletal remains, that's my guess is why the death is ruled as undetermined.
Right.
So they probably believe that it was a homicide for the suspicious circumstances surrounding the disappearance and looking into circumstantial evidence such as witness statements and things surrounding Mary's past. And so it might not make sense on the surface, well, why would it be undetermined, but they think it's a homicide? that would be the best explanation that I can come up with.
Yeah, I agree. It's important to note that Mary and James were discussing a divorce prior to Mary's disappearance, and police did question James in this case, but again, James denied any involvement.
Of course he did.
Yeah. In 2016, James died in prison of natural causes at the age of 65 while serving time for unrelated charges. James was never charged for the presumed murder of April, and April has actually never been found.
That's really sad. So her family doesn't have any type of answers. The only thing that they know is that, you know, in their heart of hearts, they probably know that James had something to do with it. I mean, at least that's my opinion. Looking at this from a reasonable standpoint, he's the last person to see her, and under very violent circumstances, forcing her into the car while she's fighting back and speeding away with her against her will. To me, it is very difficult for investigators to charge someone without a body, but it's not impossible. And basically what they have to do is they have to build their case around that circumstantial evidence, such as witness statements, things that aren't actually tangible. That's the difference versus physical evidence. You know, the only piece of physical evidence that they have in this case is her wallet, which they gave to Gina, so there's no longer that, and the car. And so I don't know what methods they were using in 1985 in Norwalk, but, you know, there are some certain things that we would be able to do today with the advancements of technology. I would venture to guess that back then they would have still, even though it's been submerged in water, used some sort of technique, such as the super glue technique, to lift fingerprints. Mm-hmm. It doesn't necessarily mean because it's submerged in water that is gone. So I don't know what lengths they went through in their investigation to process that car for evidence, but they still could have done something, and maybe they did. But that's why it's such a difficult case for them to prove, and I'm guessing that's why they were able to fairly easily charge him with kidnapping.
Well, yeah, they had witnesses that saw him doing that, yeah.
So it's not impossible to build a case off of just witnesses. And, you know, when I train new officers or new detectives, people get hung up on like, oh my goodness, it's so scary to investigate a sex assault, or it's so scary and intimidating to investigate a homicide. Well, the reality of it is nothing changes with your police procedures, so to speak. Nothing changes with the way you investigate things. And so the point I'm trying to make is they built a case on a kidnapping around circumstantial evidence because they had no physical evidence. The only thing they had was a toll receipt that doesn't say anything other than he went to New York. So they're building their case based on witness statements because they don't have a victim to testify that this happened to her. So, and they got a conviction on it, right? Mm-hmm. So in my mind, I think they could have probably, depending on what all the information they had at the time, but just on the surface, it looks like they could have built a homicide case off of circumstantial evidence.
Yeah. I am curious about that toll receipt, though, and what that said, like what time he went, if it kind of tells where he went to. I mean, because probably wherever he went is where she's at.
Well, yeah, I would say so. Mm-hmm. Either that or he was trying to build an alibi.
True. That could be too. Yeah, I'd be interested to know what he said about that when he was questioned. But according to April's sister, Gina, April saw the good in everybody. She was young and naive. Yeah, she was only 20 at the time. I don't know if we mentioned that. He was 33 and she was only 20. So she was very young. Yeah,
and so was he. I mean, 33 is still pretty young.
It is.
They're in a young relationship, and anybody that's been in a relationship knows that it's not always easy, especially when you're young and it's first starting. And so, unfortunately, in this case, it turned to a continuous violent thing, and she had been trying to break up with him. So, you know, of course, these things can escalate.
They can, and they actually say that, you know, during that point in time, when the person finally decides to leave their abuser is the most dangerous time for them. And it sounds like in both of these cases, Mary, his ex-wife, as well as April, they were in that same situation because Mary was discussing divorce with him, and now April is discussing breaking up with him, and now both, one is found dead, the other one has never been found. So,
yeah, that's a very good observation.
It says a lot.
It does.
But yeah, unfortunately, like Gina said, April was young and naive and never wanted to believe there was any bad in people. I mean, it's a good quality to have when you can see the good in people and the
Sure,
good in
yeah.
situations. But you do have to be very careful that you're not too naive, because
Right.
as much as I think we really do want to believe that there are, good people and there's good in everyone, there are people out there that unfortunately they're not.
Right.
There's innately bad people out there, unfortunately. And
There is, and I think it's worth mentioning here as well. If you are involved in a domestic violence situation and you feel like you can't get away, just understand there's resources out there to help you get away from abusers. And if you're seeing somebody that you love in your family that is sticking with an abuser, a lot of times people are too afraid to call the cops or report these things because they're afraid that the victim in that situation might, disown them or not want to talk to them or be mad at them. And that's okay. If they're mad at you and they don't want anything to do with you because of it, that's okay. You still need to make that report because, as you can see, in April's case, this thing escalated. And I'm in no way, shape, or form saying that April's family didn't do that.
oh, no,
It's
not
just
at all.
it's just a good lesson, being an experienced police officer, seeing domestic violence. I don't know how many times I've talked to families where they're like, well, yeah, I saw this and I knew that. And there was just this big pattern of stuff that just went unreported because they were just too afraid to make that report for fear of damaging the relationship.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's somebody out there that knows something. I mean, it was almost 40 years ago, and he passed away in what did we say, 2016, 2015? So he went several years after this crime happened.
Yeah.
I don't know that he carried that with him all that time. I'm sure he said something to someone along the way, maybe.
Well, he spent a great deal of time, obviously, in prison. So, I just know that most likely the people that he was sharing a cell with, he probably said something to them. I mean, who knows? I mean, he could have just taken that to the grave. And we can't forget that this is just our opinion that he probably had something to do with it. It's very possible that he didn't have anything to do with it. I think unlikely, but it is a possibility. And of course, he's innocent until proven guilty and all that. But it just makes sense to me. And my opinion is, I think that James had everything to do with it because everything lines up with him being the top suspect in this.
It does. And, I wish that April's family could just at least know where she's at and be able to, bring her home. And
Right. And I was thinking, assuming that he did do it, I'm just, trying to put myself in his shoes. If I did something very, very horrible and I held on to that my whole life and never told anybody, when you're in your 60s and you're in prison and you're going to, I mean, I don't know, I'm assuming, he probably was in bad health or something. There's some reason. But I'm just saying, if you're in a situation where you're carrying all that guilt with you for all those years and you know that your time is near, don't you think you'd want to, I don't know, make peace with that and tell the family so at least they can move forward?
you would think so. I mean, like a deathbed confession, those happen sometimes. Unfortunately, it didn't happen in this case. And
Well, and we don't know what the circumstances
Right.
are when he died in prison. I mean,
Yeah.
anything can happen in prison. You can die in the infirmary because you're ill at 60, or, you could be a victim of, homicide or...
well, his was natural causes. We do
natural,
know
yeah.
that,
Okay.
but I don't know what that entails. But
Well, it's important to remember April was 20 years old at the time of her disappearance. She would be 60 years old today. April is described as a white female, 5 foot 4 inches, and 120 pounds with brown hair and brown eyes. April had her ears pierced, and she was last seen wearing a black rabbit fur coat, a black shirt, blue jeans, possibly striped, white sneakers, a plain silver ring, a thin silver ring with a turquoise stone, and silver earrings, carrying a gray and beige clutch purse with top zippers. She had style.
yeah, it sounds like it.
Yeah, I'm picturing this.
Very 80s.
And yeah, it's very 80s, and I actually like it.
Yeah. If you have any information about April Grisanti's disappearance or current whereabouts, you are encouraged to contact the Norwalk Police Department at 283-854-3000.
Well, thank you for presenting that case, and thank you for finally doing better in trivia than you ever have. I think you're on a roll. I can't wait to see what next week
Next
brings.
Next week is 100%.
You know what? I'll make you a deal. If you can get 100% on trivia, then I will let you present trivia until I get 100%.
Okay, deal.
We can do it that way.
Deal.
Okay. I'm going to try to make it super easy on you.
Thank
Because
you.
I'm sick of seeing you lose.
Oh my gosh.
I'm kidding.
You just have to rub it in.
Yeah. No, I you know what? Let me take it back because you did really good today. 75%? Mm-hmm. I mean,
For
that's
me,
a C.
Yeah.
That's
great.
great.
It's passing.
Okay, so thank you for listening to Mysteries of Mimosas. Do us a favor, hit like and subscribe and share this podcast with your friends. And you know what? I wanted to mention too, Danielle Lopez. We did her episode on Mystery Monday. It's garnered a lot of attention, and a lot of people haven't even heard of Danielle's case in New Jersey. But search efforts were underway this weekend, organized by Danielle's mom, Sue. And so we got a lot of really positive feedback on social media over Danielle. And so I'd like to, keep her in our thoughts as well as we move forward, because I'm really hopeful that we find Danielle alive still. Mm-hmm. Anyway, you can visit us on our website, mysteriesandmimosas.net. Follow us on Instagram at Mysteries and Mimosas Podcast. Don't bother with Discord because, well, I've begged you for,
right.
I've begged you for months.
We're no longer begging.
You're not going to do it. So, and then check out Dragon Glassware. And the final and last thing that we want to do is raise our glasses and cheers to April.
Cheers.
Cheers.